Welcome back to Prison Pen Pals, and in this episode we're going to talk about something pretty strange. I wrote a letter to murderer Joel Guy Jr. and what happened next is something I never expected. Before we start, if you want to write to inmates like I do, then use the service I use. It's called Gmail. It's fast and it's secure, and it means you don't have to give out your home address. That's the main reason why I like it. I get physical letters sent to my house, but I don't have to give out my address to the inmates. I'll leave a link to their services in the description below. I also want to say thank you to everyone who liked the Richard Ramirez video. We've smashed 150 likes in just 3 days. I've got one big target for this year. I'm currently on 25,000 subscribers, and by 2023 I want to hit 100,000 subscribers. So if you're enjoying these videos and you're not subscribed, click down here. Let's get back to the video. Joel Guy Jr. was a 27-year-old who had lived a life of comfort. His parents, Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy, had funded his entire life. Joel had never had to get a job and could do as he pleased. This was until Thanksgiving 2016, when Joel's parents announced to the family that they were planning to retire, and they told Joel that he would have to get a job and learn to stand on his own 2 feet. This was like treason to Joel. He couldn't get a job like everyone else, so he devised a plan of how to kill your parents. He wrote it down.
Him on the ground fixing it, kill him with a knife, clean up mess from him before she gets home, kill her with knife, take dog with you, place her in shower, turn on hot water and point at her to get rid of forensics, remove her clothes, take them with me for disposal, place him in plastic bin and use it to get him into the upstairs bathroom, cut off his arm and plant his flesh under her fingernails, place her hand with his DNA so that his DNA is not washed away by shower, use sodium hydroxide to destroy his soft tissue and soften bones for transport, baste once every hour to accelerate, flush sodium hydroxide down the toilet, wash out bin with handheld shower head, and then direct handheld into toilet to flush anything out of the pipes and into the public waterway.
Talk about premeditation.
Get killing knives, quiet, multiple. Get sledgehammer, crush bones. Bring blender and food grinder, grind meat. Get bleach, denature proteins. Get plastic bin for denaturation process. Does not matter where they're killed, just get rid of bloody spots to prevent evidence of time of death, not the mattress or couches. Get rid of bodies inside house. There and my DNA already there. Flush chunks down toilet, not garbage.
He's literally full of everything.
Assets, her life insurance, $500,000, possibly more with double indemnity. With him missing dead, I get the whole thing. All her other assets are joint. Go to him if missing, unknown if he is dead. His assets includes all joint property if missing. When he gets all joint property, also gets joint debt. Knoxville house. Homeowner's insurance possibly, but probably worthless after fire. Owe $100,000. Soykensville house. Appraised at $400,000 plus. Worthless with Renee on property. Her car, his SUV, his boat, his old truck.
So, he plans to kill his parents and claim on the insurance. Lovely lad. So as usual, I wrote to an inmate and waited for my Gmail to arrive. And when it did, I got this letter.
Hello, Mike. This is probably the most interesting and random opportunity that I'll ever experience in my life. It has been a very different life for me over my time incarcerated. I have been occupied with learning myself and growing mentally and spiritually. I'm interested in starting a series of videos with the full story of not only the crime, but my lifehood in the deepest details. I'm willing to explain and tell you things that have never been said to anyone, not even my lawyer.
Okay, so when I read this, I was really happy. Joel seems totally on board, albeit a little bit too eager if anything. Tell me things he's not told his lawyer. mental. But then he carried on, and this is where it starts to get a little murky.
The only thing is, for me to give all the details of my crime, I would need to work out some type of beneficial aspect to the situation. The thing that would help me the most would be money to buy commissionary food and clothes. That can be arranged in multiple forms.
Right, okay, I get it. He wants a bit of money, but he goes even further.
Also, the name and info provided would be the info that the letters to communicate back and forth go through. I personally have issues with sending and receiving mail. They try to hold my mail from me and reading what I send out. I need you to send it to my cell's name. We have lived together for almost a year, so when they bring his mail, I will get it.
Now this raises loads of alarm bells. He wants me to communicate with him through his cellmate because the prison guards hold on to it. I mean, I've been doing this for a little bit now, and I've spoken to people who've done equally if not more heinous acts. So frankly, I'm not buying this. But then I started to think about it, and I was thinking, maybe this is how he's going to tell me things that he's not even told his lawyer. So if new evidence was to come out in these videos and was to be used against him, he could say, in the words of Shaggy,
"Wasn't me."
The police arrived the morning after the murders for a welfare check when Lisa Guy did not show up for work. Police noticed there were 2 cars parked out front and the lights inside the house were on. Looking in, they could see food on the floor and items not put away, and most notably, the heat emanating from the house. The police were becoming more concerned, so they decide to enter the house, where they can hear a dog whimpering.
Hello, sheriff's office. There's a dog walking in. Oh shit! I hear a dog howling. Knox County Sheriff's Office! Police!
Please let me hear back from you as soon as possible. I will make any of your time worthwhile. Sincerely, TJ. P.S. to the viewers' audience, refer to my name as BG. That's what I go by.
So now we've got to call him BG in the letters as well. Interesting how he signed it off JG, Joel Guy. I want this to be true badly, but I'm not getting positive vibes about it at all. So I decided to look up Bailey Guy. Who is he? So this is him. He's born in 1998. He's a child. So he's in for robbery and evading arrest. Risk of death. So I'm assuming he had a getaway car or something like that. So this guy here is in prison for robbery. He's very young and now he's in a cell with Joel Guy Jr. That is serious punishment. Especially when you consider Joel Guy Jr. had this to say about his former cellmate.
This was a bad idea. I am psychologically unstable. I'm having fantasies of using my fingers to gouge this gentleman's eyes out of his head while he's unconscious, and therefore wouldn't be able to defend himself. Given that, in these fantasies, it is essential that I use my fingers, a no sharps restriction will accomplish nothing in deterring their actualization. I'm writing this letter because I don't want to end up with a disciplinary infraction, or worse, more criminal charges. Nor do I logically believe that this gentleman deserves to be blind. I don't know what to do. I shouldn't be allowed to access another person while they're unconscious. This was a bad idea. Please stop me from acting on these fantasies. Thanks, Joel Guy Jr.
Heavy. I mean, he very well could be serious, or he might just be trying to manipulate the system so he can have a cell on his own. Either way, he wouldn't be my first choice for a cellmate. So after reflecting on this letter, I decided that I've never done this for anyone else. Everything has always been above board, so I'm not going to start now. If I give in to these demands at the start, then where does it end? So I decided to write back to Joel's main address and state that I will not write to him through Bailey. I can offer money for postage, but that's it. And essentially, if he wants to take part, then he has to do it as Joel Guy Jr. It's reminded me a little bit of the Simpsons episode with Michael Jackson. I knew there was a risk in doing it this way, as it could blow any cover that Joel's already using with other people. But you've got to go with your gut feeling, so I decided to go for it.
Police Department, Sheriff's Office!
The first thing the officers noticed was the heat in the house, followed by a strong chemical smell. As they walked through, they could see shopping left near the front door. Further, they found cleaning products, also wallets, keys and a hammer on the table. In the kitchen area is where one of the most gruesome discoveries was found. The stove is on, with a big pot boiling away. They later discovered that it was Joel Guy Jr.'s mother's severed head that was boiling away in there.
Back everybody out. That's blood, right? Everybody looks like it. That blood or boo-boo? It looks like blood. Anybody got gloves on? Yeah, I'm on close. Not the county sheriff's office! We're here to check your welfare!
The cries from the dog are harrowing. You can also see bloodstains on the walls and carpet as officers make their way through the house. When they get to the landing, they can see a severed hand lying on the floor.
This room's clear. Hold up. Oh my God. Cut people's hands? Yeah, I think so. That's what I think.
The officers searched the other rooms, looking for the rest of the body. When they got to the master bedroom, the chemical smell was at its strongest, but they could also smell decomposing bodies. Can you imagine the horror of that? But it got worse. Plastic sheeting covered the ensuite floor. There was a garden hose attached to the shower, and a huge knife in the sink. Ahead were two plastic containers next to each other, both containing the dissolving remains of Joel Guy Jr.'s parents.
Mr. Scott, I recently received a letter from you addressed to my name and TDOC number at Whiteville Correctional Facility. Your letter strongly implies the existence of prior correspondence between us. As such, I felt it imperative that I reach out to you to clarify some things.
Firstly, he's called me Mr. Scott. It feels like a backhanded slap, to be honest. But straight away, he's talking as if we've never spoken before. And now I'm thinking I've blown his cover, I've blown everything, and he won't want to talk to me.
This is the first letter from you that I have ever received. I have never written a letter to you before, nor have I previously communicated with you or asked anyone else to communicate with you on my behalf. I'm not even housed at Whiteville anymore. As such, if you have been communicating with anyone in TDOC custody claiming to be me, you have been communicating with an imposter, who based on your letter has been begging you for money.
Right, I'm so entrenched in the lie that I just can't work out what's going on. Is this Joel being honest, or is he angry because I blew his cover? These are the perils of overthinking everything. I even started to compare the handwriting, and I was seeing similarities, but I was also saying to myself, he's trying to be another person, and this is why some bits don't match. And then I looked in the mirror and I said, Michael, you're not a handwriting expert. Stop it. Also, like Joel says in the second letter, this second letter is from a different prison, so that is conclusive evidence for me. The other letter is from an imposter. He ends the letter with this.
At this juncture, I am not interested in discussing the details of my criminal case with anyone. Sincerely, Joel Guy Jr., the real one.
So Joel is saying he doesn't want to talk about the case, but the letter I sent to him is not going to make anyone open up. The first letter he received from me was terrible for an introduction, but I was fooled. It's going to be tough to get him on board, but with a little bit of charm, I reckon we can do it. He didn't say, I don't want to talk, and I'm going to hold on to that. So, the plan is now to write to the real Joel Guy Jr., but also right back to Bailey Guy and play into the lies. Let him believe that we think he's Joel Guy Jr. and let's just see what stories he makes up. Obviously, none of it'll be true, but it'll be entertaining at least. Do you reckon it was just a clerical error, maybe with the guy's surname, and Bailey just simply seized the opportunity? If so, fair play, Bailey lad, and welcome to Bazaar. That's it for this episode of Prison Pen Pals. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see what Joel Guy Jr. and Bailey Guy have to say. Until next time, stay sane.